Welcome back to Sports Hop. It is on and popping. It's your boy, Mack B. Back in the building, back at it, episode 39. Man, time flies when you're having fun. And speaking of having fun, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right there. You see the little bell right there. Let's get it popping. We appreciate all the love, all the views, all the subscribers joining the network. We really appreciate it. We're excited. I'm in the building. I got my main man, Solomon, in the building. What's going on with you? How you doing, man?
I am here. I'm good. How are you?
I'm blessed, man. Too blessed to be stressed. Everything been good with you, right?
Yeah, everything's been good, man. I'm looking forward to, really getting into football season this year. So I hear you got some picks tonight, I see.
I sure do. We're going to tap in on that later on in the show. But
right.
Speaking of the NFL season, shout out to the world champion Kansas City Chiefs. You know, they went back-to-back already. They're trying to make it a three-peat. They knocked off the Ravens last night in Kansas City, 27-20. Great game to open the season. And Patrick Mahomes, of course, was brilliant as always. He threw for 291 yards, had a touchdown, had one interception. He did get some help from his buddies. Shout out to the rookie, Xavier Worthy, who actually showcased his speed, the fastest guy in the NFL. He actually had 2 receptions for 47 yards, had a touchdown. I'm really impressed with his speed on the outside. Kansas City's got more weapons now, I believe, than they've ever had. And keep in mind, Hollywood Brown did not even play in this game due to injury. But I did like Rashee Rice. He had 7 receptions, 103 yards. He was a difference maker. He was stretching the field. He was making a lot of good plays, particularly the yak, yards after the catch. So I like what the Kansas City offense has done. Keep in mind, it's just the first game. It's still early in the year. They still got time to gel and have more chemistry on offense. But anytime, I say this all the time, anytime you got Andy Reid, you got Patrick Mahomes, you got Travis Kelce, who really wasn't a factor last night, right? But you have those guys in the lineup, and you got Andy Reid on the sidelines. Kansas City's going to be in every game. I'm not saying they're going to go 17-0, right? But they're going to be in every football game, and I really like their poise. I see the hunger in Mahomes' eyes. He wants to do a three-peat. He wants to talk about it, right? Most guys won't embrace that, but I love the fact that, he's showing his leadership. He's showing his confidence in that squad. And Kansas City is a dangerous team. Defensively, I really like what Chris Jones was doing on the edges, caused a fumble by Lamar Jackson, had a few sacks.
Yeah.
Kansas City's defense is going to come around and be dominant again. On the other side of the equation, the Ravens came in and played a decent game, Solomon. I did like what Lamar Jackson did with his feet. He did make some plays. He did miss some key throws towards the end. But that touchdown pass that actually was ruled incomplete due to the toe, Isaiah Likely's big toe on the white chalk there, barely. That would have basically put the Ravens in a position late in the game with literally no time left to go for 2 for the win. That's what Harbaugh was going to do. But it was indeed a good matchup. I'm really happy with the results. Kansas City looks poised to contend. I know it's early, so there's still a lot of football left to be played. But tell me this, do you think it's a bigger deal that Kansas City won that game against the Ravens, or is it a bigger deal that Baltimore just can't seem to shake the Kansas City curse? Lamar Jackson is now 1-5 all-time versus Mahomes. Big deal or no deal that the Ravens couldn't get it done?
I don't think it's a big deal right now. In fact, Lamar Jackson said it's not like they're my kryptonite, they're the league's kryptonite. So,
right.
Basically, look, one of the things that I'm seeing, it used to be that, especially at the beginning of the season, early in the season, it was always the defenses that matured before offenses did, right? Now, though, what we're seeing is the offenses actually be able to come out and they're balling, especially when you have a team that stayed together like Kansas City and to a certain degree like Baltimore. So, these guys came out throwing. I think that's a prelude to what we're going to see in the season. I don't know. I think the league's getting better. I know you love Kansas City. I don't know if you love Kansas City more than you love your Denver Broncos, but that's a different story.
My wallet loves Kansas City. That's what it is.
There you go. But
my bank account.
I think there are going to be a lot of teams that are going to be competing against him this year. So, it's going to be an exciting year. But I thought that was a great way to kick the season off.
Yeah, it was a great game. Shout out to both teams, opening on that Thursday night. They get, about 9 to 10 days off, and they're going to be back in action. Speaking of being back in action, we're going to pivot to Cleveland, Ohio. Shout out to the Browns. Cleveland is an interesting team. Last year, they made a playoff push. They got Joe Flacco off the couch. He was couch surfing, right? And he came off the couch and actually played well for the Browns and led them to a playoff berth where they went down to Houston and got destroyed by the up-and-coming Houston Texans. But nonetheless, there's a lot of pressure in Cleveland in terms of Deshaun Watson. Can he get it done? Does he still have the magic to make it happen? To be honest with you, I'm skeptical. I really don't know. I just know he hasn't been the same player since he had to sit out the season down in Houston due to all the legal issues that he had. Football, of course, has a level of physicality, but there's also an emotional and a mental component, psychological component to the game. And when you're caught up in a whirlwind of lawsuits and allegations, I honestly believe it has affected Deshaun Watson on the field. Not to mention the 18 to 24 months where he didn't play competitive football. So he had that guaranteed contract. Cleveland is basically stuck. It's all guaranteed money. But Deshaun Watson is in a critical point in his career because he's got to get it done. He's got to show that he's still a top-tier quarterback in the NFL. His record in Cleveland thus far is 8-4. He's only played in 12 games, partially due to suspension and injuries as well. He hasn't always been healthy. But career numbers, last year, he had 1,115 yards passing. He had 7 TDs. He had 4 picks. Subpar numbers. I mean, his QBR was 84%. Okay, but, he really didn't get a good sample size because he was injured and he got hurt. But nonetheless, the Browns are really going to be eyeballing what he does on the field this year along with the rest of the league. Deshaun Watson is not the same quarterback that I once knew when he was in Houston, lighting up the league and playing at a very high level. I do honestly believe that, it's put up or shut up in the next 2 years for him. He's got to make some things happen this year, especially this year, if not next year as well, and leading Cleveland to the playoffs because from a roster standpoint, they really didn't lose anybody significant. I mean, the Browns still have the nucleus intact to compete at a high level, and that division is brutal with a capital B, right? You got the Ravens and you got the Bengals and even the Steelers. I mean, they're going to beat up on each other all year long. They're opening against the Cowboys on Sunday, but I think that the Browns really, really need to take a look at Deshaun Watson moving forward. If he can't stay healthy and if he's on the field and he's not competing at a high level, it may be time to go in a different direction in the next year or two, provided what he does on the field. So it remains to be seen, but very interesting situation. I believe he's under one of the quarterbacks in the league under the most pressure to produce and perform because Cleveland is under the microscope. They did have a very good year last year. They exceeded my expectations as a ball club. I didn't think they'd even make it that far. But nonetheless, I think Cleveland is in a position where they got to be looking for a new quarterback if Deshaun Watson can't get it done. Solomon, what are your thoughts coming out of Cleveland, Ohio, regarding this situation with Deshaun Watson? Do you think that, he needs to make it happen this year or next year? Otherwise, it's bye-bye?
Absolutely. This has got to be the year for him. You can also almost give him a pass last year because, like you said, he had a lot of legal issues.
Injuries.
He was just coming over. He had the injuries. He had all of these things going on. Plus, I think they lost Nick Chubb last year too, right?
Yeah, good point.
Right. And so, they lost their running game. He's a huge part of that. He is now healthy. That's my understanding.
He'll be back like in I think 6 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, he'll be back. And so, I feel good about their chances, but this is now his time to do that. But don't be surprised if halfway through the season you see Jameis Winston in there. He's still on that team, right?
Really? You think Winston's going to come in, huh?
I think, you got a guy with a lot of starting experience, right? He has won games. He has a big arm. He can lead a team. And so why not? If he's not performing, I see them putting him in there because, I don't think they have time to wait. Like you said, it's put up or shut up year.
Yeah.
And they're not going to go through and waste a season, if this guy's not putting the numbers up. So, I at that point they'd move on from him or whatever. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I saw Winston in there, I'd say around week 6, week 7.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to prove. There's a lot of pressure. He is under the radar and definitely has a lot to prove. And I just don't believe he's the same player. I'm rooting for you, Deshaun. I loved you at Clemson. I loved you early on in Houston with the Texans. So I'm pulling for you to turn things around. So we shall see how it plays out in Cleveland, Ohio, because the Dog Pound, shout out to the Dog Pound in Cleveland. They got some of the most passionate fans in the NFL, and they're going to let them hear it. There's going to be a lot of barking coming out of that Dog Pound if he can't get that bone moving down the field. So we're going to see how that all works out in Cleveland. Speaking of working out, shout out, we're going to go to the Mile High City, to Denver, Colorado. We've got a rookie out of Oregon, Bo Nix. Big time shout outs and love to Bo Nix. Named a captain earlier this week by head coach Sean Payton. The first rookie in the franchise history to be named a captain since 1967 when Floyd Little, the great running back for the Broncos way back in the day, made it happen. So he's only the second Broncos rookie to be named a captain. I think it's a big deal. He's 24 years of age. I think he's got a level of maturity and he's got a little bit of an upper hand on that freshman quarterback class that's coming out. I do like Bo Nix's game. He played collegiately in more football games and big-time, high-profile games than any of the other QBs that came out and went in the first round, right? So I like his level of maturity. I like his athleticism. He definitely, can throw the ball in tight windows, and he can move around with his feet and kind of make some things happen on the fly. So I think I was a little bit premature when I called Sean Payton out because I think they made the right pick and in terms of drafting a quarterback. And that Russell Wilson deal is kind of a thing of the past. I mean, it's becoming slowly but surely a memory of the past. And when they got Bo Nix coming in now, the way he's looking, I like what he's doing with the offense. I think Sean Payton is moving in the right direction. I think Denver is poised to win between 8 to 10 games if Bo Nix can stay healthy and the defense, can stay intact. I think they're a better team than many people thought, including myself. I know they haven't played a regular season game yet. They're playing the Seahawks on Sunday, but I am excited to see Bo Nix in that Broncos offense and see what they can do. They don't have a lot of high-profile names on both sides of the football. Jerry Jeudy is gone. Simmons is gone from the secondary, the all-pro safety. But the Broncos, I think, have something to prove, and I think there's a level of motivation. Cortland Sutton is still there, by the way. So I think the Broncos are motivated to prove people wrong. But I am excited to see Bo Nix produce on the field. I like what Sean Payton is doing with him on offense. You got Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator, making things happen in the defensive secondary as well. So what are your thoughts on the Broncos in terms of Bo Nix? And do you think the over-under, by the way, coming out of Vegas is, I believe, 6.5 games?
Well,
so I think Denver's going to win more than 6 games. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't get in the betting part, but I can tell you the Broncos really believe in Bo Nix.
Yeah.
The fact that they made him a starting captain, the fact that they made a big deal out of it.
Right.
You talk to players around there, you see all the stories, all you're hearing is he doesn't get flustered, right? He knows how to handle adversity. He's a captain on the team, and he's saying all the right things, right?
Yeah.
So then you look at his collegiate career. He's 24 years old coming out, so he's played a full thing. So his maturity is showing. Now there's questions. He's 6'2", which is not ideal for the typical quarterback or the prototypical quarterback they like to see. But I feel like this year they're gonna do their best to protect him and bring him up the right way. They're not going to just sort of throw him in there. So I agree with you. I see them being sort of an 8-game or 9-game win team this year. I don't know if they're going to do well, but I do feel like they have the quarterback of the future.
Right. Shout out to the Broncos and Sean Payton and Bo Nix out of the Mile High City. Shout out to Denver, Colorado, D-Town. We're going to move to the East Coast, and we're going to land in the city of brotherly love. Shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles, who just won a football game, by the way, in Sao Paulo against the Green Bay Packers. So the Eagles are coming out the gate 1-0, but there is a lot of pressure on Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts to get it done this year. They basically started off last year doing very well. I think at one point they were 10-1 or 10-2, and then they lost 6 out of their last 7 games. They limped into the playoffs. They got dominated by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year. They fell apart as an organization. So I think Nick Sirianni is under the gun. It's either put up or shut up this year for him. If they don't win, if they don't make a deep playoff run this year, he could be on the hot seat and he could be gone. They don't play over there in Philly. I'm telling you, not just the fan base, but the organization. Trust me, with Jeffrey Lurie and those boys, they're not going to be playing around. So Nick Sirianni has a lot to prove. Hopefully the Eagles can kind of get back to their dominant level in the NFC East. We're going to see how it plays out. It's early on. But Jalen Hurts has to basically minimize the mistakes on the field. I still think he's a generational talent as a quarterback, coming out of Alabama, and then he went to OU his last season. But I do like his game. I like the fact that they got Saquon Barkley from the Giants still in the division. Big time mistake by New York for letting him go. And then he's still in your division, and he's going to beat up on y'all twice a year. I don't know what the heck the Giants were thinking, but Saquon Barkley, who had 3 touchdowns in that opening game versus the Packers, is already proven that he's a key acquisition to the Eagles offense. Shout out to the Eagles. I think they're going to be a very, very interesting team to watch over the course of the year. I know it's early on. They still got a lot of big football games left to be played. But if Jalen Hurts can minimize the mistakes, he can stay healthy. Saquon Barkley can stay healthy and stay on the field. And Nick Sirianni can, be a little bit better in terms of making decisions, in-game adjustments. I think defensively the Eagles are in a good position. So it's going to be interesting to see how that they work out the season and will they make a big run going into the playoffs. What are your thoughts, Solomon, in terms of what the Eagles didn't do last year, right? They went home early and landed in that nest much, much more prematurely than many people thought. Do you think the Eagles can turn it around and get back to the Super Bowl or get back to the NFC Championship game? What are your thoughts?
Well, in a lot of ways, they're following the same way as the Philadelphia 76ers. They just have a great season.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, there's something that happens in the playoffs one way or another. But I think at some point this year, there was a private meeting between 2 prominent guys, one Saquon Barkley and one Jalen Hurts. They said, look, we both got something to prove. Both got chips on our shoulders.
Yeah.
Let's go out and show them wrong. I think Saquon Barkley, 2 things. I think, one, he wants to show the Giants why they made a mistake, and he wants to show the people that he can stay healthy. And then number 3, of course, which is the trend going on now, is that when running backs start getting near that 3-0 mark, they just discount you and they start looking to replace you. So he's got to make a statement in coming out and saying that he is not still. It's not only is that he's good enough, but that he's good enough to start and be the workhorse. I think tonight was a good way that they kicked that off, and I think he's showed that he has that capability.
Well said. I agree. We're going to shift gears, and we're going to go to Los Angeles, the city of angels. Shout out to the LA Dodgers. I love my Dodgers. I love what you guys are doing, and you got such a power. You got a polarizing player in Shohei Ohtani, lighten up the Major League Baseball circuit. I mean, what can't Ohtani do, right? And he hasn't even gotten on the mound this year as a pitcher. Wait till you see him start throwing again, right? That's going to happen next year. But 44 home runs, 46 stolen bases. He's on pace to become the first player in Major League Baseball history to have 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases It's never been done before. He's going to change the narrative. He's already changing the game. I love the direction what Ohtani is doing. And all the pressure, all the expectations, right, when he came over from the Angels, he's exceeded expectations. I know that's kind of hard to say, but look at his level of play and what he's doing for the Dodgers. He's such a generational talent. I hope I can meet him and interview him one day, but he's just a dominant player. I think the National League MVP race is over because I think Ohtani, hands down, is going to win the MVP in the National League. What are your thoughts on his dominant play and also the Dodgers? Because keep in mind, right, they always ball out during the regular season, but the last 4 or 5 years, they've really just melted like butter in the playoffs. I'm telling you, and getting beat in the first round and getting knocked out by the Padres and the Diamondbacks. And nothing against those teams because those are very solid baseball teams,
Absolutely.
Right?
Quality.
But Dave Roberts has got to get it done. I'm sick and tired of watching the Dodgers dominate in the regular season and then they disappear in the playoffs. Dave Rogers has got to get it done. He's got to make better decisions in the playoffs with the rotation. But shout out to Ohtani. I love what he's doing. But I am concerned with the Dodgers in the postseason because of what has happened in the past. What are your thoughts on this situation?
Well, first of all, I think you're right. Especially the last 2 years have been pretty embarrassing for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
You don't go out and, number one, spend that much money, have that high of a payroll.
Highest payroll in the league.
Yeah, and just, you're in LA, so you've already got a spotlight on you.
Yeah.
And then you fade like they faded. It's really disappointing to the city, I think, most importantly. You got some diehard Dodger fans here. In fact, you could say out of all our sports teams here, the Dodger fans are probably the most diehard.
Absolutely.
Teams, right?
Yeah.
Highly marketable, and I think that's something. Great smile, and just his ability to perform. It's not one of these things where you bring in a guy and he's got this promise and he doesn't actually put it to the metal. I mean, he's out here performing. Consistently, right. So I think the city couldn't be happier to have him. I think the team understands the pressure on them going into the playoffs. I feel like Dave Roberts is going to make the proper adjustments and get this team past the second round and where they need to be. But yeah, you're right. I think this year they need to be in the World Series. They need to win it all. I think that would be the proper thing to happen. If not, he may be looking for a job next year.
Yeah. I personally believe Dave Roberts has been in the hot seat for the last couple of years. I'm surprised the Dodgers kept him this long, but hopefully they can turn things around. They've got like the highest payroll in baseball. They've got a roster loaded with a lot of talent. Mookie Betts, Ohtani. I mean, they've got heavy bats. They've got the pitching to get it done. So we shall see how it plays out going into the fall, right? But shout out to the LA Dodgers. We love you. Big Blue, we want to see you bring that World Series trophy back to Los Angeles. It's been a minute, and so we want to celebrate because we couldn't celebrate during the pandemic the last time you won a title, but we'll see what happens with the LA Dodgers. On a sad note, I want to give a big-time shout-out and my condolences to Rich Homie Quan, the artist out of Atlanta who was found dead a few days back. Such a sad story. Great talent, great artist, well-respected in the industry. He was only 34 years of age. Allegedly died of a drug overdose. Details are still coming in, so I don't want to specify and say that was the exact cause of death. But if it was associated with an overdose, we got to address this opioid crisis in America, really worldwide. It's such a sad thing with this fentanyl and this opioid things that are going on. So hopefully, if you're out there watching the show and you have an addiction or you need help, there are resources out there. And please get help as soon as you can before it's too late. But it was really sad to hear the news that Rich Homie Quan has left us at such an early age, only 34 years of age. Such a talented artist out of the ATL. So Sports Hot Media, we want to wish our condolences and just respect to the family and friends of Rich Homie Quan. Such a great artist, gone way too soon. So just wanted to basically give some love there. Moving on. It is time for game picks. And I've got 3 games on the menu, and I'm excited because it's week 1 of the NFL season. This is what we do, Solomon. This is what we do.
Oh, boy.
We're going to start out in Seattle, Washington. And we got the Denver Broncos rolling into town, going up to C-Town. They are a 6-point dog. Okay, so Denver's coming into the game. It's Bo Nix's first start as a rookie, going up against Geno Smith and those boys. Keep in mind, Pete Carroll is no longer in Seattle, so they got a new head coach. I honestly love the Broncos in this spot at 6, so swallow the 6 points, take the Broncos +6, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go up there and they win it outright. I'm not telling you to take a money line, but I do like the Denver Broncos at +6 points. I think it's way too many points. I think Denver's going to come into that game with a chip on their shoulder. I think the defense is going to be ready. I think it's going to be a physical defensive game. But I think in the end, Bo Nix and Sean Payton are going to keep those Bronco boys hanging around. And I like the Broncos. I think they're live at 6 points. So roll with the Broncos on Sunday. A lot of lettuce on that sandwich, a lot of cheese and Gouda on that sandwich, and get your money right, all right? So you heard it first here from Mack B and Sports Hop. Denver +6. Moving on. We're going to roll to the ATL. Shout out to the dirty, dirty, dirty South and Atlanta, hot Atlanta. They got the Pittsburgh Steelers coming into town. The betting line for this game, the Falcons are -3.5. That line opened at 3. It went up 0.5 point. So there's been some movement. The public is leaning towards the Falcons. On the Steelers side of things, Russell Wilson has some tightness in his calf. He is questionable to go on Sunday. So we may not even see Russell Wilson, who was recently named the #1 starting QB from Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin. If Russell Wilson can't go, you got Justin Fields who will get the start. And to be honest with you, I don't think that's a bad thing for Pittsburgh because I honestly believe that Justin Fields gives the Steelers a better chance to win the football game than if Russell Wilson started. No disrespect to Russ, but there's a lot of rust on those tires, if you know what I'm saying. So we're going to see what happens in Atlanta. You got Kirk Cousins making his debut in the ATL, but they got so many weapons offensively down there in Atlanta. I love what they're doing. Drake London on the outside. You got Kyle Pitts, who recently injured a hamstring. I don't know if he's going to be able to play on Sunday, but you got Bijan Robinson in the backfield. You got Cordell Patterson. So the Falcons are stacked and loaded on offense. I think the addition of Kirk Cousins is a good move for Atlanta. Shout out to the owner of the Falcons, Arthur Blank. I love what you're doing. You're always trying to make not only the organization better, but you've done so much for the city of Atlanta as an owner. So big time love for the Atlanta Falcons. I think the Falcons are live here. I like them at 3.5. Go ahead and swallow the points. Take Atlanta on Sunday, -3.5 to get it done. I think they win the football game by a touchdown over the Steelers in Atlanta. And last but not least, we're headed to Cleveland, Ohio. We got the America's team, right? The Dallas Cowboys coming into town to face the Cleveland Browns. The betting line, it was at 3. It is dropped to 2.5. So Cleveland is favored by 2.5. And you'll be surprised here. I think the Cowboys are active at +2.5. I'm telling everybody to roll with the Cowboys. I know Dak Prescott and those boys, they don't always play well on the road. I think they're a different team at home. But I think it's the first game of the year. I don't see a lot of pressure on the Cowboys. I think they come in loose. They got the deal done with CeeDee Lamb. I think the Cowboys are live at +2.5. Now, I still think something tells me that Cleveland's going to probably win it late and win by 1 or 2 points, but that hook is what's going to get them, right? So I think the Cowboys will cover +2.5. They'll cover that spread. Not necessarily saying they're going to win the football game, but I like Dallas here at +2.5 going into Cleveland. I still don't see Deshaun Watson balling at a high level like he did back in his Houston Texan days. You got to show me differently, Deshaun. I think he has struggled in the past, and I think there's more pressure on him coming into this football game to get it done. So I think the Cowboys go into Cleveland, and I think they stay very competitive, and I think it goes down to the wire. I would not be surprised if Dallas wins it outright, but even if they lose, take the Cowboys at +2.5, all right? So you already know what time it is. It's time to bring the pain. So Solomon, let it rain! Woo! For those of you who've been following the show, the last couple of seasons, I made a prediction early in the season or mid-season, and I put some future bets in for Kansas City because I thought at the time the Chiefs just had something special going on with Andy Reid. And sure enough, the last 2 years, when I placed future wagers on Kansas City, you know what time it is. You know what happened. They basically brought the Lombardi Trophy home. And this year, could 3 times be a charm? Can Kansas City be the first team in NFL history to do a three-peat? Well, guess what? I believe in Kansas City because when you got Patrick Mahomes with a pulse and he's on the field and you got Travis Kelce and now you got Xavier Worthy and you got Hollywood Brown coming back from injury with, man, I'm done. Kansas City is a hot pick. I believe the odds right now are like +550. That's 5 to 1 on your money. For every $100, you win in 500. I'm telling you, hop on it now, okay? Because it's going to be extra lettuce on that sandwich. When I go to New Orleans to cover Super Bowl 59, trust me, Kansas City's going to be down in the bayou. That's what I'm thinking is happening. So don't sleep at the wheel. You know what time it is. It's your boy Mack B telling you, take Kansas City right now. It's an investment. It's a futures bet. They're live at +550. I love what they're doing. And if they get home field advantage, you already know throughout the AFC playoffs, home cooking in Kansas City, I don't see anybody coming in to Arrowhead and knocking off the Chiefs. So you know what time it is. And with that being said, I'm going to make it official right now. Kansas City Chiefs are not only going to go back, they're going to win it again. And they're going to win Super Bowl 59. You know what time it is. Shout out to Mahomes. Shout out to my man Tech 9, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce. Let's go! Woo! Thanks for watching Sports Hop. You already know what time it is. It's your boy Mack B. For all the latest news on hip-hop and sports, subscribe here. We appreciate the love.